Alright, so continuing on here. Got my boy Derek on the TV there. He's always talking about his back neck. Now he's gotta wet it. It's very important that, gotta keep a good watch over your back neck. Whatever that is. So, moving on. Our next job is going to be to get this pin out right here. This pin. Right there. To finish getting our spring out. So, grab you one of these punches. A thicker one. Nice and thick. Not a thin one. Just about yay size or so. Then just get your little hammer. If you got a little nylon hammer or rubber mallet, you can use that. Or even a set of pliers. This doesn't really take a whole lot of force to do. So, it's not necessarily about how much force you use. It's where you use it. So, all you gotta do is put your punch right here on the end and just give it a few taps. Right. So before you give it a few taps, make sure you got this doohickey out. It won't go anywhere unless you do. This doohickey here, it's called a shepherd's pin or shepherd's rod, I think. And it won't move. The pin won't move unless you have this out. So just apply a little bit of pressure with your finger, push out, lift up, and it just, you pull back towards the rear of the gun, it'll come right out. And then now you just get your little punch and just give it a little tap, and there you go. Just a little tippy tap will get that sucker punched in. That's all you need. Now you can go to the other side and move it all the way out. Bam. Just like that. There's the pin. Set it to the side. Now, obviously we already removed this spring. We already replaced it with the spring that we wanted. We're just kind of demonstrating this, over again. Once again, I didn't necessarily like the quality of the footage that came out last time, so I was just going to redo it for that reason. So, alright, what you're gonna want to do now is just kind of angle this hammer and spring get up with your zip tie on it. Just want to finagle that on out of there. Just give it a little twist and out she should come. Now, I want to be real careful with this thing when you're taking out the old one. So as to not, let this thing be released on you. Because if you do, cut the zip tie and you release that pressure from that zip tie, and you don't have that, you're not holding on to the spring, again, it will bite you. It will hurt. It will most likely make you bleed some. So, take it from me, make sure you hold this thing nice and tight before you cut the zip tie off. And then, you're going to want to, keep in mind how this thing you got it taken off. Pay special attention to the orientation of these horns, because you're gonna have to put this back in the same fashion, right? You're gonna have to tuck these horns back behind this hammer the same way. You're gonna have to cut the zip tie to take it off, and then put another zip tie back on after you tuck the horns back behind this hammer. You're gonna have to do the same thing with the new spring. So pay close attention to how this thing is oriented. If you get confused, it's not very hard to remember how to put this thing back together. If you do happen to get confused, don't worry. There's only one possibility here for it to work properly. Alright, there's probably more way than one. But it's only going to work properly if you do it this way. Okay? So, it's going to go on there like this. With the disregard, the new spring, obviously, it's already on there properly. Notice how springs are tucked all behind it and everything. That's what you want to end up with. But to get there, you're going to want to orient it like this with the hammer. This is the face. This is the face of the hammer right here. Okay, this is the part of the hammer that makes contact with the firing pin. Okay, so you've got this sort of mating surface that makes contact with the firing pin here, and then you've got this sort of hump, this whoop-de-doo right here, goes upward, there. So you got that, and then on the back side, you got this spine. Okay, Now in the center, you got this divot, okay? And that is what you're gonna want to, that is how you're gonna want to orient your spring back on there. So what you're gonna want to do is put it on there just like this. You're gonna want to take your old one off, obviously, then orient it just like this. Just like that, to where the horns go into the ground. Like that. And then, to get your tension, once you start rotating this, it'll actually lock into place on that notch we were talking about on the spine, like this one's doing right here, like that one's doing. See how it's locked into place in the middle of that divot in that spine there? That's what you want to see. So as you rotate this bad boy, you know, you're going to be putting tension on it. And like I said, be extremely careful. Alright? Be extremely careful that you don't get in this thing's way. And make sure you take a lot of care to not get, you know, get in the way of these horns. Because as you rotate it back, you're going to feel the tension get loaded up on it. So, you know, as you here's how it's going to be. And as you rotate it, you're going to feel it get loaded up. As you tuck it back behind, you're going to feel it get loaded up with tension. So don't get in the way, and do not, just let it slip out of your fingers, because it will bite you. Okay? So once again, this is how it should be. The horn should be facing towards the ground with the back of the spine upward. It should be just like this. And then you lock both of these in place behind the hammer. And then zip tie them together, just like you did when you took it off. Okay? If you have any questions, just put them in the comments section. I can definitely help you out if you guys have any questions on that. Now, the reason why we're doing all this is because this new spring, it makes the action quicker on the trigger. It puts more tension on the trigger and on the hammer. Makes the hammer and the trigger return to their home position faster. So you can actually pump the trigger quicker with a spring that's has more tension on it. A stronger spring, in other words. And it might have a slight effect on your trigger pull, but not as much as you might think. The real benefit here is gonna be the trigger returning to home position faster. That's gonna be the main benefit here. You might have a slightly harder trigger pull or a slightly firmer trigger, but that's, like I said, that's what you want. As far as the amount of force, the number of pounds it's going to take to cycle the trigger, it's not gonna make as much of a difference as you might think. Trust me on that. it's it's hardly even noticeable, to be perfectly honest with you. Um, it it feels actually a lot like the same trigger, except you are gonna notice it's more springy. You know, that's what you're gonna notice. You're not really gonna notice like a longer take up, or you're gonna notice a nice fast you know nice fast return to the home position. You know, it's kind of hard to explain, I guess, because it's not necessarily going to give you a harder trigger pull. It's going to actually help actuate the trigger, faster, so you can have you know, a faster reaction with your trigger pull. You don't have to, you're not going to be waiting in between uh, trigger pulls for your trigger to return to home position. So that's kind of the benefit here. Um, so, all right, let's go ahead and put everything back together. Wrap this all up, because we are almost done. And so one thing I like to do is, while this trigger's out, make sure to just, before you put it back in, give it a nice good helping of grease. And yeah, just use regular ass either gun oil or regular brake grease. If you're in a colder climate, I might recommend both, but see, in a hotter climate like what I'm in here in Texas, you can use grease and just go with it, not really have to worry about it, because it's not really ever going to get cold enough here, except for maybe a couple days out of the year, to warrant using only gun oil. Make sure you kind of get the inside of it as well. Get it nice and lubricated. Don't be shy with it. It'll only bite you if you let it go. Alright, so that's all good. Alright. Now, putting it back is pretty much the same deal, but in reverse. If you can, as you can see, I keep this thing pretty well lubed up, but I don't really shoot it all that much, like I was saying earlier. When I go to shoot it, it'll be the first time I've ever actually went out and shot this thing, because I've just kind of ran into some roadblocks when it goes to shooting this thing. For some reason, gun ranges don't want you to shoot it at their range, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to deal with. So, I mean, they'll let you shoot, your AR, but when it comes to shooting your AK, they won't let you shoot it in a lot of gun ranges for some damn reason. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this bad boy reassembled. So just go in with a little twist. Once you get it sort of situated, go ahead and grab your pin. Go on and grease it up some. If you haven't already, it's always good to put a little lube on, little sort of light layer of grease on all this stuff, especially if it's going to be kind of sitting around. It ain't going to hurt nothing, that's for sure. Alright, so get your holes lined up. Just kind of work it back and forth until you get that pin in there, and then just once again take your punch and give the broad side, the fat side, a couple of good whacks with your punch. And that's that. Just drive that bad boy home. Now, once you get it in there, get your shepherd's rod or guide pin, the keeper for your pins here. Just work it into position. Might take you some finagling to do, but it'll get there. You just work it in. Should be able to do it with your bare hands. Doesn't really take much force to get this in there, so be mindful of that. Just kind of keep an eye on what you're doing. If you do anything, you might want to give it a light tap or so with your hammer, but it won't really require that much force to get into position. So Just keep that in mind. Yeah, might consider using one of those punches to manipulate it in. There are a few light taps, but once you get in place, just push it down on top of your other pin. And at this point, you're ready to take off your zip tie. So just remember, anytime you're messing with the spring, it's better to just put gloves on, so go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put mine on. Alright, so we just go ahead and give the old snipperoo to our zip tie here. Now we're gonna take our little hook, get our spring, and put one back into position. Get the other spring, take it, put it back into position. Make sure you can put your safety selector in and rotate it all the way. So I'm unable to, so I'm gonna have to take mine back out and move that spring arm back up real quick. Now go ahead and put your safety selector back in. Rotate it all the way down. Now go ahead and put your spring arm back into place. This one you're gonna want to put into that hole, just like that. right in this hole. Right there. See that hole? Right in there. Just like that. And then the other one, you don't have a hole to put it in, so just put it over the top of that other end, that other side of that trigger, and that's it. You're done. Now you should have a functioning trigger at this point. So go ahead and test it if you're wanting to. Should stay down nice and tight. Shouldn't have any problems with your safety. Your safety should engage nice and clean. Yeah, go ahead and put your recoil spring back in. And go ahead and test the action. We are good. And that's how you swap out a trigger spring on an AK-47. Nothing too hard to it. Once again, this is my Palmetto State Armory AK-47. I've enjoyed this gun up to this point. Now I will be shooting it here very soon. Gonna take it out. Gonna do a little road trip here pretty soon, and I should get some footage of that. I've been definitely waiting to do that. Alright, yeah, if you guys have any questions, just drop them in the comments. Like I said, I should